The Valley of Shadows. Chapter 1. A solitary tumbleweed meandered through the deserted boardwalk shadows as silence filled the air, punctuated only by the distant howl of a coyote. The town nestled in the vast desert expanse, wedged between towering mountains that loomed ominously over the settlement, their menacing presence shrouded in an almost palpable sense of unease. The townsfolk lived in fear and superstition, whispering tales of strange happenings and mysterious disappearances. Shadow Valley was a study in contrasts, a bustling, thriving community with its own schoolhouse, church, and general store that catered to the needs of the local miners and ranch hands, yet haunted by the ominous presence of unexplained phenomena. The people of Shadow Valley had grown accustomed to the whispers in the night, the eerie howls echoing from within the mountains, and the occasional sightings of apparitions that defied explanation. Despite this, no one dared speak openly about their experiences or beliefs. Yet beneath the facade of calm, a simmering unease lingered. As the sun set and shadows crept along the boardwalk, it was clear that Shadow Valley was not just a place, but an enigma waiting to be unraveled. But all of that would change when a newcomer arrived in town, a 38-year-old nuclear physicist and research scientist named Dr. Robert Hartley, hailing from a prestigious East Coast university. His employer was a government agency responsible for monitoring and regulating the use of atomic energy, which had dispatched him to Shadow Valley to investigate reports of unusual radioactivity levels detected in the area by satellite imaging. As he approached the town through the barren landscape, Dr. Hartley couldn't help but notice the eerie silence that enveloped it, a stark contrast to the symphony of bird calls and insect chirps that usually accompanied such desolate settings. His unease intensified as he passed under the weathered wooden gates leading into the main street, lined with silent stone-faced buildings that seemed to bear witness to the valley's strange occurrences. Dr. Hartley checked into the dusty hotel at the end of Main Street and immediately began his research. He spent several days poring over satellite imagery data, conducting ground-based radiation measurements, and consulting with local residents who might possess information about any recent mining or industrial activities that could account for the anomalous readings he'd detected. However, as the days passed, Dr. Hartley began to realize that there was more to Shadow Valley than simple scientific inquiry. He couldn't shake the feeling that something sinister was at work within this isolated desert town, a force beyond his comprehension and control. And it wasn't long before he would come face to face with the terrifying reality of what lay hidden just beneath the surface of Shadow Valley. Helen Crawford, a seasoned schoolteacher in her 30s, was the first person to confront this abominable presence that defied all logic. One fateful night, she was walking home from the general store when she heard an eerie sound echoing through the desolate desert landscape. She hesitated for a moment before turning to investigate, only to find herself face to face with a grotesque creature that seemed torn straight from her worst nightmares. Paralyzed by fear, Helen struggled to make sense of what she had witnessed as her heart pounded like a drum against her chest. She managed to flee back into the safety of her own home, but the harrowing memory of this encounter haunted her for days. Desperate for answers and support, she confided in Sheriff Donovan about her bizarre experience, hoping that he would take her claims seriously and delve further into the mystery surrounding Shadow Valley. However, Sheriff Donovan's skepticism clouded his judgment, causing him to dismiss Helen's account as nothing more than a product of fear. Despite his reluctance, Helen refused to let go of her fears, documenting every strange occurrence she encountered within the shadowy valley. As time went on, these unusual events became increasingly frequent and intense, culminating in a series of terrifying disappearances that left the entire town on edge. Feeling compelled to take action against this growing menace, Sheriff Donovan finally relented and contacted Dr. Hartley at the hotel for assistance. He explained the dire situation facing Shadow Valley and pleaded with him to cut short his scientific research in order to focus on solving the enigma of these baffling disappearances. Dr. Hartley, intrigued by the peculiar nature of the events unfolding before him, agreed to lend his expertise to the case, even if it meant abandoning his current line of investigation. Together, they set out to unravel the tangled web of mysteries that threatened the very fabric of their quiet town. Dr. Hartley conceded, but he was adamant that their search for answers must be grounded in reason and science rather than superstition or panic. And so, together with Sheriff Donovan, they began the quest to unravel the terrifying incidents plaguing Shadow Valley. A journey that would lead them into the heart of darkness, forcing them to confront the most primal fears of humanity. As Dr. Hartley and Sheriff Donovan delved deeper into their investigation, they started to piece together a series of clues suggesting a connection between the unexplained disappearances and the enigmatic recluse who lived on the outskirts of town. Dr. Edward Blackwood, a man of considerable intellect and ambition, Blackwood was rumored to have conducted groundbreaking experiments in the field of atomic energy, but his true motivations remained shrouded in mystery. Driven by curiosity and understanding, Dr. Hartley set up a meeting with Dr. Blackwood at his remote laboratory nestled within the mountain. As they approached the entrance to the lab, they couldn't help but feel an eerie sensation, as if some unseen presence was watching their every move. Yet they persisted, determined to get to the bottom of this elusive scientist and the dark secrets he guarded so zealously. Upon entering Dr. Blackwood's laboratory, they were greeted by a scene of chaos, the remnants of an experiment gone awry. At the center of the room stood a monstrous chamber pulsating with energy, which seemed to come alive as it radiated from the walls and ceiling in a cascade of dazzling light. As they stood there, awestruck at this incredible display of raw power, Dr. Hartley couldn't help but feel a sense of kinship with the scientist who had created such a marvelous invention. But as he examined the chamber and its surrounding equipment, it dawned on him that something was horribly wrong. The experiment had gone far beyond what Blackwood or anyone else could have ever imagined. And then, in a blinding flash of light, the truth became apparent. The energy pulsating through the chamber wasn't just atomic in nature, it was alive and sentient, capable of manifesting itself in physical form as a grotesque, monstrous abomination that defied all laws of nature and science. This creature had been born from Dr. Blackwood's desperate quest to harness the power of the atom for his own insidious purposes, but it had quickly spiraled out of control, threatening not only Shadow Valley, but also the entire world beyond. As Dr. Hartley and Sheriff Donovan stood there, stunned and aghast, they knew that they had no other choice than to act immediately if they hoped to save their town, and perhaps even humanity itself, from the devastating repercussions of Dr. Blackwood's actions. With courage and determination as their guiding principles, they embarked on a perilous journey into the heart of darkness, determined to put an end to the chaos that had enveloped Shadow Valley for far too long. As days turned into weeks, Dr. Hartley and Sheriff Donovan found themselves ensnared in a maelstrom of conflict against forces they scarcely understood or could control. They faced off against the grotesque abomination that had been spawned by Dr. Blackwood's experiments, as well as countless other monstrous creatures that emerged from the shadows to terrorize the innocent townsfolk of Shadow Valley. In the end, it would take all of their combined skills and knowledge to vanquish these ancient evils and bring an end to the nightmare that had befallen this once peaceful desert community. But even as they stood triumphant over the remains of Dr. Blackwood's laboratory, they knew that their battle was far from over, was finally vanquished once and for all. Chapter 2. He started by analyzing samples of the strange energy that seemed to be responsible for many of these incidents, an amorphous substance that radiated with a faint blue glow and was somehow associated with whatever had abducted the townsfolk. Using sophisticated equipment, he began to study the composition of this substance. His initial findings were inconclusive. It did not seem to be composed of any known elements or compounds, nor did it emit any identifiable electromagnetic signals. It was as if this strange energy existed in a vacuum unto itself, an anomaly that defied all known laws of physics and chemistry. Undeterred by these setbacks, Dr. Hartley turned his attention to the accounts given by survivors who had managed to escape the clutches of their would-be abductors. He strained to hear their accounts of uncanny sights, perplexing impressions, and an unnerving sense of surveillance even afterward. Although these stories were often vague and inconsistent, victims reported different colors for the lights, different shapes for the creatures that pursued them. There was a common thread running through all of them, an overarching sense of dread and fear that seemed to accompany these events, like a specter haunting the living. The townsfolk exhibited a spectrum of emotions. Some wailed and gnashed their teeth, while others stoically accepted their fate with quiet resignation. As the horrors persisted, the desperate survivors banded together with renewed vigor and determination, vowing to confront these ancient evils head-on and restore peace to their ravaged community. As Dr. Hartley delved deeper into his investigation, he began to realize that what he was dealing with was more than just a simple case of missing persons, or even an outbreak of mass hysteria. These incidents were happening too frequently, and with too much precision for them to be coincidental. They appeared instead to be the product of some malevolent force working from within the very fabric of reality itself. In order to gain a better understanding of this enigmatic entity, Dr. Hartley conducted a series of tests designed to measure its electromagnetic output and other physical properties. These tests revealed that the energy signature associated with these events was not only highly unstable, but also capable of causing severe damage to any electronic devices that came within range. In some cases, entire rooms had been reduced to smoldering ruins as a result of contact with this elusive substance. Despite these ominous findings, Dr. Hartley remained undeterred in his pursuit of knowledge. He knew that there was more at stake here than just the safety of a small desert town. If left unchecked, whatever was behind these bizarre occurrences could very well spell doom for all of humanity. And so he pressed on, determined to uncover the truth, no matter what it took. One day, while examining a particularly volatile sample of the strange energy, Dr. Hartley made an astonishing discovery. Embedded within its atomic structure was a complex pattern of symbols and glyphs that bore a striking resemblance to those found in ancient manuscripts detailing the secrets of alchemy and occultism. This revelation filled him with both excitement and trepidation, for if this substance truly did possess supernatural properties, then it would mean that the forces at work were far more potent than he had ever imagined. As he studied the glyphs, Dr. Hartley found himself increasingly intrigued by their potential significance. Could these ancient markings hold the key to unlocking the mysteries of this malevolent force? Or was it merely a coincidence, a quirk of nature that held no real meaning beyond its destructive capabilities? These questions weighed heavily on his mind as he continued his research, driven by both fear and curiosity. For if the answer lay in deciphering these ancient symbols, then perhaps there was hope for humanity after all, but only if they could overcome their own fears and prejudices long enough to unlock the secrets hidden within them. With renewed determination, Dr. Hartley set about deciphering these mysterious symbols in hopes of gaining further insight into the nature of this enigmatic substance. His efforts paid off when he discovered a series of diagrams depicting various arcane rituals and incantations designed to summon forth beings from beyond the veil of reality itself. Among these diagrams was one that stood out from the rest, an intricate map detailing the location of a hidden laboratory nestled deep within the mountains surrounding Shadow Valley. The name Dr. Edward Blackwood appeared alongside this map, alongside several other cryptic references to his work in the field of atomic energy. Intrigued by these findings and desperate for answers, Dr. Hartley resolved to visit the remote lab, where he hoped to find additional evidence that would help him understand the true nature of the events plaguing Shadow Valley. Little did he know at the time just how close he was to unearthing the darkest secrets of his own past. As tension gripped the town, its residents constantly scanning their surroundings for any sign of danger. The days following Dr. Hartwell's discovery were fraught with uncertainty and fear as strange occurrences began to multiply. It wasn't long before the first full encounters took place, a terrifying reminder that whatever lurked within those mountains, it was not content to remain hidden any longer. Dr. Hartley knew he had to act quickly if he hoped to uncover the truth behind these supernatural threats. He prepared himself for the journey ahead, aware that he might be putting his life on the line. But he was determined, as much by his own curiosity as by his duty, to protect those who lived in fear of what lay just beyond their doorsteps. As he ventured deeper into the heart of the forest, Dr. Hartley couldn't help but feel a growing sense of unease. And yet, despite his trepidation, he pressed onward, driven by an unyielding resolve to uncover the truth. After what felt like an eternity of walking through dense woods and overgrown terrain, Dr. Hartley finally arrived at the entrance of the hidden laboratory. As he stepped inside, he was greeted by a sight that would haunt his dreams for years to come. Rows upon rows of cages filled with monstrous creatures, their eyes gleaming with malevolent intent as they prowled restlessly within their confines. Amidst this horrifying tableau stood Dr. Blackwood himself, his face twisted into a twisted smile, as he reveled in the terror he had wrought upon the world. "Ah, Dr. Hartley," he said, with a sinister chuckle. "You've come to witness my masterpiece firsthand." And so began a struggle for survival unlike any other, one that would test the limits of human endurance and force Dr. Hartley to confront the darkest aspects of his own soul. But as he battled these nightmarish creations, he found himself drawn ever closer to the truth about his past, and ultimately, to the redemption he so desperately sought. As they cautiously advanced towards the creature, its fury and strength burst forth like a predator cornered. The werewolf-like being bared its teeth in a feral snarl before leaping into the air, displaying muscles that rippled with power, as it transformed into something far more monstrous than they could have ever imagined possible. The hunters recoiled in terror, fleeing back to town with horrifying tales of their encounter. These stories spread quickly throughout the community, fueling both curiosity and fear among its inhabitants. Many dismissed these accounts as mere exaggerations or tall tales, refusing to believe that such a creature could exist. But time proved them wrong, for more people began reporting similar encounters with the malevolent beings lurking in the shadows of Shadow Valley. As if this weren't enough, whispers of a vampiric entity terrorizing the townspeople started circulating. This creature would strike without warning, leaving its victims drained of blood and marked by eerie, inexplicable wounds that defied all logic and reason. The townsfolk blamed these events on a curse or some other supernatural force beyond their control. Some even went so far as to suggest that the very earth upon which Shadow Valley was built was tainted by dark forces intent on bringing about its destruction. In the midst of this chaos and fear, Dr. Hartwell tirelessly continued his research into the strange energy samples he had collected. He began noticing a recurring symbol in each sample, one that bore an uncanny resemblance to those found in ancient manuscripts detailing the secrets of alchemy and occultism. This discovery led him to believe that these events were part of some larger sinister ritual or incantation summoned forth from dark forces. Despite the growing danger around them, Dr. Hartwell pressed on with his research, driven by a burning desire to uncover the truth and put an end to this nightmare once and for all. His work led him back to the laboratory map he had discovered earlier, the one that detailed the location of Dr. Edward Blackwood's hidden lab, deep within the mountains. With nothing left to lose, Dr. Hartwell gathered his supplies and set out on a perilous journey into the unknown. He knew that if there was any hope of stopping whatever dark forces were at play here, he would need to face them head-on and confront them in their own lair. The trek through the mountains was long and arduous. Dr. Hartwell had to fend off countless monstrosities as he made his way deeper into the heart of Shadow Valley's darkest secret. Along the way, he stumbled upon a group of survivors who had been left behind by their fellow townsfolk, victims of a terrible accident that had occurred during one of Dr. Blackwood's experiments gone awry. These unfortunate souls were little more than walking corpses, their bodies twisted and contorted by the effects of whatever substance had been unleashed upon them. They stalked through the darkened halls of the lab, their hollow eyes glowing with an unnatural hunger that could not be sated. Despite the dangers posed by these mutated beings, Dr. Hartwell knew that he couldn't afford to let them stand in his way any longer. He pressed onward, determined to put an end to this madness once and for all. As he delved deeper into the lab, he found himself confronted with a sight that sent a chill down his spine. The remains of Dr. Edward Blackwood himself. The once prominent scientist lay sprawled across the floor, his body twisted in agony as it absorbed one last burst of energy from some hidden source within the room. Chapter 4. Uncovering the Truth. Chapter 4. Uncovering the truth. The lab was a maze of dimly lit corridors and hidden chambers, each one more haunting than the last. Dr. Hartley's heart raced as he darted from room to room, searching for any proof that might elucidate the supernatural phenomena plaguing Shadow Valley. He understood that time was running out. If he didn't discover a means to neutralize the energy within the vial soon, it would be too late. As Dr. Hartley delved into the recesses of the lab, he stumbled upon a room replete with countless notebooks and research documents detailing Dr. Edward Blackwood's experiment. The pages were covered in handwritten notes about various compounds and chemicals, many of which appeared to share a common symbol, the same one that had been present in every energy sample Dr. Hartley had analyzed. Chapter 5. Final Confrontation. The final confrontation with the monsters loomed near. Dr. Hartley and Sheriff Donovan, now a formidable duo in their quest to save Shadow Valley, had amassed all the information they needed to understand what had been happening since the onset of this nightmare. It was clear that the source of the supernatural threat came from another dimension, and Dr. Blackwood's experiments were merely the tip of the iceberg. Their desperate plan began with utilizing local resources, like the caves surrounding Shadow Valley. After much research, they discovered a particular cave believed to possess unique properties which could potentially help them close the portal. Thought to be an ancient burial ground, where spirits resided, it gave off a strong energy that could counteract the otherworldly forces pulling the monsters into this dimension. Armed with this knowledge, Dr. Hartley and Sheriff Donovan set out to gather a team of willing volunteers from the remaining townsfolk who had been brave enough to stand against the supernatural horde. Together, they journeyed into the caves, their hearts pounding in anticipation of what lay ahead. The group delved deeper into the caverns, the oppressive energy pressing in on them like a weighty shroud, impeding every breath and step. Finally, they reached the heart of the cave, a small chamber filled with an otherworldly glow. "We've got to create a barrier," Dr. Hartley urged, his voice cracking from exertion and Sheriff Donovan nodded, grimacing as he surveyed their makeshift tools, a hodgepodge of local flora and fauna imbued with mystical properties. "Ready when you are," Dr. Hartley replied, clenching his fist around the ancient artifact in his hand. Together, they positioned themselves at either side of the portal, bracing themselves for the onslaught that awaited them. The battle was long and brutal, with waves upon waves of monsters pouring through the portal. At first, it seemed like they might not stand a chance against these relentless creatures. But as the hours turned into days, something unexpected happened. The energy emanating from the cave began to weaken the monsters, rendering them harmless before they could even reach the barrier. Encouraged by this development, Dr. Hartley and Sheriff Donovan launched their attack. Using advanced weaponry combined with traditional weapons forged in Shadow Valley's forge, they fought back against the monsters with a ferocity born out of desperation and determination. The townsfolk, now armed with ancient artifacts discovered within the cave, joined them in this final push to save their home. As the battle raged on, it became apparent that Dr. Blackwood's true nature was far more sinister than anyone could have imagined. He had not only been experimenting with opening portals, but had also been tampering with the very fabric of reality itself, unleashing forces beyond human comprehension. "We must stop him at all costs," Sheriff Donovan shouted over the din of battle, his eyes narrowed in determination. For the sake of our families and our future, together, they pressed on, each blow striking a blow for survival and hope. And as the battle reached its climax, they knew that their fight was far from over. In a final showdown, Dr. Hartley and Sheriff Donovan confronted Dr. Blackwood within the chamber where the portal was located. Surrounded by remnants of his failed experiments, an energy so intense threatened to consume them all. They engaged in a battle that would determine the fate of Shadow Valley, and possibly the entire world. Dr. Hartley and Sheriff Donovan fought with every scrap of scientific knowledge and local resources they possessed. The ferocity of their struggle was palpable, their every blow echoed through the chamber. Yet, they emerged victorious, closing the portal for good and vanquishing Dr. Blackwood once and for all. As the dust settled and adrenaline wore off, the townsfolk of Shadow Valley began to rebuild their lives. The memories of the horrors they had faced wouldn't disappear entirely, but they knew that they had prevailed against unimaginable. With Dr. Hartley and Sheriff Donovan leading the way, Shadow Valley slowly transformed into a thriving community once more. As for Dr. Blackwood, his name became a cautionary tale throughout history, reminding future generations of the dangers of tampering with forces beyond their understanding. His legacy lived on, serving as both a warning and inspiration to those who came after them. And so the people of Shadow Valley began to heal, using their newfound knowledge to protect themselves against any future threats. They had faced the darkness together and emerged stronger than ever before. As for Dr. Hartley and Sheriff Donovan, they continued their research into the supernatural, seeking out new ways to harness its power for the betterment of humankind. Chapter 6: Aftermath. After their decisive victory, the people of Shadow Valley began to rebuild their shattered lives. The energy from the cave had weakened the remaining monsters, preventing them from reaching the barrier and wreaking further havoc. With the threat neutralized and the portal sealed forevermore, Dr. Hartley and Sheriff Donovan led a joint effort to repair the damage caused by the battle. Using their combined scientific knowledge and local resources, they developed innovative methods of construction that were both resistant to supernatural forces and environmentally friendly. The town's infrastructure was rebuilt from scratch, incorporating cutting-edge technology alongside time-honored techniques passed down through generations. As the days turned into weeks, the residents of Shadow Valley gradually healed. They learned to cope with the memories of the horrors they had endured, drawing strength from one another and their shared experiences. Many started to delve deeper into science or explore the supernatural, seeking answers about what had happened and how to safeguard themselves against any future threat. Dr. Hartley continued his research into harnessing the power of the supernatural for the betterment of humankind. He developed groundbreaking technologies that enabled humans to communicate with spirits without fear of possession or harm. These breakthroughs not only helped him comprehend the nature of the forces at play in Shadow Valley, but also sparked a new era of exploration and understanding for other scientists worldwide. Sheriff Donovan, conversely, directed his attention towards law enforcement and community safety. He enforced stringent protocols concerning supernatural occurrences and established an independent unit dedicated to probing such incidents. With his leadership, Shadow Valley became one of the most secure towns in America, renowned as a fortress against darkness. Despite their triumphs, both Dr. Hartley and Sheriff Donovan knew that there would always be more to learn about the supernatural realm. They had barely scratched the surface during their struggle against Dr. Blackwood, and many questions remained unanswered. What was the true essence of the pulsating energy within the cave? Was it a natural occurrence or an artifact left behind by ancient civilizations? And most importantly, what other threats lurked beyond the portal that had almost brought down Shadow Valley? These queries haunted them as they pondered over their experiences. They realized that while they had shielded their town from annihilation, they had also opened up a vast and treacherous world far beyond their comprehension. This revelation instilled in them both pride and apprehension. Pride because they had dared to confront such powerful forces, but apprehension since they knew there was still much more that remained uncharted territory. As the years rolled by, Shadow Valley prospered under the tutelage of Dr. Hartley and Sheriff Donovan. The town became a beacon of hope for those seeking to harness the power of science and supernatural phenomena. People from all over converged on Shadow Valley to learn from its inhabitants and explore the cave where it had all started. One day, during a routine inspection of the portal within the cave, Dr. Hartley discovered something peculiar, a faint glow emanating from deep within the caverns. Intrigued by this finding, he enlisted the assistance of Sheriff Donovan and several other experts to explore further. Together, they ventured back into the heart of the cave, hoping to uncover the source of this mysterious energy. As they delved deeper into the darkness, they faced a dilemma. Should they venture into the unknown, or leave it untouched for fear of what lay beyond? Eventually, their curiosity and duty to humanity prevailed. They pressed onward, their hearts pounding with anticipation of what awaited them. As they reached the center of the caverns, they encountered a sight that sent chills down their spines. Another portal, strikingly similar to the one they had sealed so long ago. This discovery filled them with both excitement and trepidation. Excitement because it suggested there were still unknown mysteries hidden within the depths of the cave, but dread because they knew opening this new portal could unleash unimaginable horrors upon their town once more. As the sun set on Shadow Valley for the first time in many years, Dr. Hartley and Sheriff Donovan stood at the entrance to the cave, confronted with a choice that would determine the fate of their beloved town yet again. Would they open this new portal and risk unleashing darkness upon the world, or leave it sealed, forever concealed within the shadows? Their decision would not only impact the lives of every citizen within Shadow Valley, but also echo throughout the ages as a testament to human curiosity and determination. For now, however, both men stood silently at the edge of the cave, their fates and those of their town hanging in the balance.